So we're online, we're on. Welcome everyone. This is the first of a series of webinars that are being organized by the USRN or University Social Responsibility Network in cooperation with the members of the network and some other organizations beyond the network. So welcome everyone from wherever you're joining. This is Fernando Palacio from Japan, and we're going to jump into our session today. So this webinar series aimed to raising awareness about what USR is, how it works, how universities make their work, their engagement a reality. So one of the things that we want to see today is how this Mooc that we prepared in the context of the USR network happened, and what were some of the lessons we learned from this process, the project. Through the USR network, we all aim at inspiring universities, not only in the network, but beyond, to boost their connections with the environment, with the people around them, with their communities, with the people they're working with the governments, and at a much larger scene. So the idea that we are looking at now is, at least for this session today, is we will be basically sharing three big goals. One is to share some lessons learned from the making of the Mooc. Then we will also reflect on what is important about the future. What were the things that we learned, and how these things that we learned in the making of the Mooc will be brought into the future. And in relation to this, there's something very interesting, and that is the fact that the USR network is thinking of creating a second Mooc, which is going to be launched hopefully soon. So we're working on these three big goals for today. At the personal level, I would very much like to express my deepest gratitude to the USRN for having me here today. It's always been a pleasure to work with the USR network as a whole, and the Secretariat at Hong Kong PolyU have always been not only very welcoming and very encouraging, but they have also taken a very important leadership in creating this wonderful initiative. And this refers to the network as a whole, and specifically to the Mooc that we will be talking about today. I also would like to express my deepest gratitude to Kyoto University, who trusted me in bringing this project of the Mooc alive. All of my colleagues at Kyoto University did an amazing job in putting the pieces together. So my deepest gratitude to them too. Of course, I would like to express my gratitude to the members of the USR network as a whole, and especially for those universities who trusted us and contributed to making this Mooc happen. Without their contributions, this could not have happened, and it's been a beautiful process. So thank you very much for all the work that we've done together. Lastly, I would like to thank to all the participants in the event today. I was looking at the list of people coming from so many different countries and so many different places, and many universities that have no direct connection to the network, and yet everybody's here. So a big thank you to all of those people who are participating in the event today. It's really, really inspiring, and it's really, it puts the spark on us to keep doing the work that we're doing and to keep engaging with the communities far beyond the networking itself. And then before actually introducing the speakers, I would like to make a quick note, and I would like to say that although Dr. Sadehvandi, or Nikki, who I will introduce in a minute, and myself, we were very much engaged in the production of the first Mooc while we were both in Kyoto University. Currently, none of us are engaged formally with Kyoto University. So I would like to say that whatever comments Nikki and myself make, please take those comments as personal. These are our own views, and they do not necessarily represent the views of Kyoto University. So with this being said, regarding the procedures and how we're going to go about this, I would like to say that for questions and answers, we will do it through the Q&A button, which is at the bottom of your Zoom screen on the left side. So we would like people participating to share their questions in the Q&A. And then Miranda in the Secretariat will help me sort the questions, and we will bring them all at the end of the presentations. So with this being said, I would like to start the actual webinar, introducing the first of the speakers, who is my dear colleague, Dr. Sadehvandi, or Nikki. We call her Nikki. She is formerly the project manager for the Mooc, and she is currently working as a lecturer in Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. Nikki earned her PhD degree from the Graduate School of Education at Kyoto University. She has served as a research associate at the Center for the Promotion of Excellence in Higher Education at Kyoto University since 2017. And she was involved in educational design and development of a few Moocs while she was there. These Moocs are presented in Kyoto UX. And her research has, in her research, she explored Mooc pedagogy, and more specifically, improving peer assessment process and outcomes in Mooc. So with this being said, Nikki, I would like you to take the floor. Thank you very much.
Fernando. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this USRN webinar series. My name is, as Fernando kindly introduced me, Nikan Sadehvandi, and together with him, who is my dear friend and former colleague, we put together this presentation, and we are going to share some highlights from the introduction to a university social responsibility Mooc project. Okay, so tonight I will talk about four major areas of background of the project. It's the structure and contents, challenges faced during the creation process of the Mooc, and some overall evaluation of the outcomes of the Mooc. So here is a screenshot of the course about page of the Mooc on edX website. Speaking of which, the second one is now live. Please have a look and register if you're interested. Okay, so the main goals of these projects were to raise awareness about the USR concept, giving visibility to the USR network while showcasing some of the good USR practices by the member universities. While different in nature and in scope, all of the participants somehow strive for fulfilling the promise of USR, that is to bridge with society and contribute to communities in need. The project was launched back in 2019, and the process of creating and stitching the pieces together continued through 2020. The same year, of course, that the pandemic hit. The launch of the first run of the Mooc itself was February 2021. Geographically speaking, the practices shown in the form of cases and mini cases represented the 5 continents, covering both theory and practice, some, of course, limited to domestic programs and activities, and some other having been conducted at an international level. The Mooc class, as you can see here, in this picture, the Mooc lasts for 4 weeks. The first week covers the theory of USR, while the other 3 weeks focus mainly on practice and showcasing the activities. Of course, we have a separate module, which is not part of the learning evaluation, but rather presenting what some of the member universities have been up to address the COVID-19 pandemic. So here is 4 main areas in which we faced some challenges during actually the process of creating the Mooc. Challenges faced at the network level was, of course, with deciding, or better say, defining the targeted audience, and issues with funding and resources. At human level, issues with internal and external communication, and sometimes with participation and commitment of the parties involved. Issues with dispersion of materials, such as diversity of contents and global representation, and also issues with gaining collaboration with edX, and towards the end of the process, of course, creating scripts for some of the cases from scratch. These are some of the typical examples of the challenges that we faced, and of course, there were more. So from here on, I would like to share parts of the learners' information and their engagement with the course. As you can see in the first graph on the left, half of the learners were women, and again, over 50% age aged over 51, as presented in the graph on the right-hand side of the screen. This seems promising as the age range represents the targeted audience that we initially envisioned and defined for the course. And I would like you to have a look at the third graph, which is at the bottom of the screen. Nearly 89% of the learners, as you can see, had some sort of higher education degrees, with nearly 70% having master's degrees or PhD degrees. Okay, so while some this gets even more interesting. While students made up nearly 30% of the learners, a good I would say 85% of them were either managers, teachers, researchers, or administrators, and this was very interesting to us indeed. And the countries of the learners are on the right-hand side, with Japan and the US and Mexico having the highest number of learners respectively, in the course. What is interesting here is the participation from countries that are not members of the network. The three examples are Mexico, Indonesia, and France, as you can see in the table. Also, it's worthy of mentioning that over 70% of the learners said that they wanted their universities to become members of the USRN. This was also another interesting point that we kept in mind. Okay, so to know if learners were happy and satisfied with the course, we included 13 items in the course ending survey. And of course, 68 learners responded. The green color shows the percentage of learners who strongly agreed that the content was interesting and the structure was easy to follow. And of course, and so on. All in all, they were satisfied with the course. So here is some information on learners' engagement. Out of 242 learners, 9 pursued a certificate. I think that is typical of a Mooc. Out of the total number of learners who are always registered, a certain portion of the learners would always pursue the certificate of the course. This was this was expected somehow. And the engagement with quizzes, this is a bit sad because the engagement with quizzes dropped towards the end of the course. But then again, what I think is worthy of mentioning here is the interaction that learners made with the videos. The interaction also decreased towards the end of the course. As you can see from the orange color, if you compare the orange color, which is the percentage of learners who watched the videos to the end, if you compare it with the blue color, which is the percentage of learners who stopped in the middle, you can see that still, we had some considerable portion of interaction with the videos, and number of learners who watched the videos to the end were higher than those who stopped. So, these are some of the keywords and key phrases extracted from learners' feedback on inclusion of more topics about relation between USR and internationalization, sustainability of USR programs, negotiation skills, relation between USR and CSR, funding, feminism, and so on and so forth. So this is all from us. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have further questions, we will happily take your questions. There's a space for that, right, Fernando, in the chat?
Yes, thank you very much, Nikki. So I would like to very especially thank Nikki for having done the presentation for the two of us. We were supposed to do it like together, but it's wonderful to have you do it, and like it gives me a moment to breathe. And actually, I was happy to see on the attendance list and the people who are there, and it's wonderful to see so many names and so many people supporting this initiative. So thank you very much for all the people there. Like Nikki said, we will have the questions and answers at the end. But if you do have questions, please make sure to make them to make us know your comments and questions at the bottom in the Zoom screen. Now, next, I would like to introduce our next speaker, who I have to say I have the deepest personal respect, and somebody who has inspired me much earlier, and I had no idea that I could even have the chance to work with him. But Professor Rob Hollister is our next speaker, and I will give a brief introduction to what he has done and what he's doing, and then the floor is yours, Robert. So Professor Rob Hollister is an emeritus professor in Tufts University at the Department of Urban and Environmental Policy and Planning, a graduate program that educates practical visionaries and whose graduates strive to advance equity and sustainability in their work for NGOs and governmental agencies. His career has focused on advising university social responsibility and community engagement. Professor Hollister co-founded and later served as the executive director of the Telwar network of engaged universities. Currently, he serves as a senior advisor to the University Social Responsibility Network. So Rob, if you're around there, we are super happy to have you on the floor.
Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to colleagues from really all parts of the world. It's great to be with you virtually. I'd like in my comments to address 2 points. First is what did we learn by doing this online course? And then what are possibilities for our network and for other networks as well with respect to future online instruction and exchange. To me, as one of the instructors, a primary lesson was just a very full confirmation of the value and the power of networks of universities. Because, as was just explained, the course featured the experience of 7 institutions, all of them members of USRN. And this initiative highlighted the fact that the current state of university social responsibility globally, which is that there is a great deal of useful experience, a growing body of information about what works well, what doesn't work so well, the diverse approaches and strategies for advancing university social responsibility. And what that reality has created is a greater opportunity to learn from, to use and adjust the approaches of successful programs in universities other than one's own. And our Mooc was one way to share that experience. And as a participant in the project, I found the experience the opportunity to learn more from partner universities really inspiring and highly informative. It was terrific to have the opportunity to learn in greater depth about the fascinating and highly effective engaged teaching and engaged research work of sister institutions, Kyoto, Hong Kong Polytechnic University, Pretoria, Manchester. And our sense from the feedback that we got from our participants in the course that they found the sessions similarly useful. A second lesson was that it really did, this particular course demonstrated both the potential and some of the challenges of online instruction. On the positive side, dramatic increase in access to effective strategies. A limitation, as Nikki alluded to earlier, was that the format and the structure of MOOCs limits the interaction. And as we all know, in terms of what constitutes effective pedagogy, the more interaction, the better. As an instructor, I particularly enjoyed and found satisfying the discussion forum and yearned for more of that type of exchange. What might we do going forward? I think that there's just huge potential for more online exchange, and both by USRN and by other networks as well, because it's notable as we're having this discussion reflecting on the USRN MOOC, that our broader global context is one of continuing rapid expansion of university networks with a special focus on social responsibility. And it's impressive as well to witness the growing use of online technologies, MOOCs, and other such vehicles. Partners in our course have contributed to what we have now internationally, which is really a growing virtual library of resources. So I think it's important to reflect on our experience, both in terms of its having been organized as a course, but the way many people used the course was, I think, less as an instructional opportunity to be completed and to get credit or certificate for, but more as an informational resource. We have a terrific opportunity going forward to elevate the opportunities to learn from the experiences of a broad group of universities. We have an excellent opportunity to collaborate with other networks as well. And I would just offer as a concluding thought that the value of creating more online instruction opportunities is both for exchange and for as I mentioned at the beginning, to learn from, adapt strategies that have proven to be effective in specific other universities, but also to help overcome the standard barriers to innovation and change that anyone in a university setting experiences. To be able to say, for example, this particular curriculum change that I'm advocating in my university isn't a crazy new fantasy. Rather, it is already proven to be successful. Here's the evidence that we have from other institutions. So I look forward to the next presenters and to our discussions.
Rob, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you. I have to say, one of the things that was very interesting about this MOOC is that when we started with this process, Professor Yoshi had the chance to go see you in Boston and actually do the first videos that we had for the MOOC. And it was interesting to see that in the beginning, we were thinking like, okay, well, this is kind of like the first draft, and there will be more chances for us to either go to Boston or have you come to Kyoto. Eventually, COVID came and that never happened. but you gave us enough material so as to work and really put these pieces together. One thing that I would like to say, other than thank you to you especially, but I would also like to thank Professor Yoshi for all the support. And one thing that this is for the viewers. One very important thing that Rob did during the Mooc is, in the beginning, is a theoretical introduction to what USR is and how it works. But more importantly, and this connects to what you just mentioned, is the fact that in the 4th session of the Mooc, you provided us all viewers and learners with the ideas that we need to think of for success when we design and implement these USR kind of activities and policy. So for all the viewers, I would very much encourage you to go and engage with the Mooc if you haven't done it so far. It's open, it's live again. And session number 4 is spectacular in regards to how universities can think for the future. And I will leave this comment here. You mentioned about the fact of having a new wide library resource. And this is exactly what the Mooc was about, and what your contribution to that was is just there for all the learners to go and engage. It's really, really wonderful. So with that being said, I would like to move to the next speaker. I will take, for all the learners, I would like you to know that I have taken the freedom to swap the order of the presenters. Originally, we were going to have Julian from Manchester, but instead we're going to have first University of Pretoria. And this has to do with the fact that Manchester has something to do with what we're doing next. So I'm going to leave you hanging for a little bit with Manchester, because that is our hook to what is coming next. And so we're going to move to the next speaker, which is the next presentation is about, it's from University of Pretoria. And originally we were supposed to have Professor Duncan to have the presentation, but he cannot make it. So instead, we're going to have Dr. Martina Jordan, who is a wonderful representative of the university and the program. So before actually giving the floor to her, I will introduce her not only as my dear friend, but also as a wonderful colleague who is very much engaged and again, very much inspiring. So Martina is the head of Community Engagement Research and Postgraduate Studies at the University of Pretoria, Mamelodi campus. She was previously a senior lecturer at the University of Pretoria, responsible for the compulsory module, Community-Based Project Module, or COGCP. For all undergraduate students at the Faculty of Engineering, the Built Environment and Information Technology. Here, this becomes interesting. More than 1,800 students register annually for this module. This is a huge number. So students have to do a project for at least 40 hours at one of the 500 possible community partners. After that, they have to reflect on their experiences. And Martina's experience as an educator in the field work, as she was engaged with the informal settlements next to Pretoria, ensured that she was able to develop this module and adapt it to the challenging circumstances in South Africa. This module has received very important recognition, which includes the Education Innovation Award, which was the module was a finalist for the Mac Janet Prize, and it won the Marketing Advancement and Communication in Education Excellence Award. Martina, again, was one of the awardees of the University Education for Transformative Leadership in Africa. Faculty support for the Telwar network, and the module was a finalist to the Global Engineers Dean Council Airbus Diversity Award. With this being said, Martina, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen, and then you must just tell me if it's correct. And if you can see it.
Yeah, all good now. We see your screen.
All good. You can see my screen. Okay, share. Okay, so I'm standing in for Prof. Duncan, and I want to share from the side of the people that were part of the Mooc, because it was also valuable for us to be part of the Mooc. It was not only the learners and the students that were involved, but for us it was also a wonderful learning curve. So I'm at the Mamelodi campus at this stage, but when we were doing the Mooc, I was still responsible for the community-based project module of the engineering faculty. So the University of Pretoria is at this stage one of two universities in Africa that is part of the University Social Responsibility Network. The Rhodes University recently joined the University Social Responsibility Network. Just to give you essential, it's very important to give you some context from the presentation. And for this reason, it may be of value to share an overview of the university. Yet I only want to highlight the 2090 pre-COVID data with you, focusing on the students' involvement in community projects, as well as the vast number of community sites of learning. The University of Pretoria embeds community engagement in its curriculum, and it requires students to have at least one community engagement experience during their undergrad studies. Thus, more than 23,000 students are annually involved in community engagement projects, and they work in 1,500 different sites. The University of Pretoria's strategic goal includes strengthening our social responsiveness and impact as goals 5. The outcome for goal 5 incorporates strategic partnerships that have an impact and drive up the university's reputation as a leading African university. Therefore, our involvement in the USRN is vital in this context. Our current focus is to rethink and recalibrate our instruction modalities, which includes enhancing elements of global connectivity and engagement, and that includes also, of course, the university's social responsibilities. The University of Pretoria follows a hybrid teaching module that includes face-to-face classes, online teaching and learning, and community projects and service learning projects. And during COVID-19, of course, we had a big challenge. All our students are still being taught online, and we also went over to e-service learning projects. Now, the Mooc, the opportunity that we had was really wonderful, because the Mooc allowed the University of Pretoria to showcase one of the flagship community engagement modules of the university, and as previously indicated by Fernando, the community-based project module of the Faculty Engineering Built Environment in IT. The Mooc became a digital medium to visually share our unique context in implementing the module since 2005. It gave us an opportunity to work with other prominent universities involved in the University Social Responsibility Network. Including the JCP module allowed us to share the successes of this macro community engagement module with the global community. We hope that our experiences and research may benefit the universities. This module entails that students have to work 40 hours in the community and thereafter reflect on their experiences. For the Mooc, we were required to develop a 15-minute video focusing on the module, and we had the opportunity to share the module's research outputs that was already published. This comprehensive video included numerous stakeholders involved. Many students enrolled annually. You can see the numbers here. I added till 2020, and like Fernando indicated, it goes up to 1,800 now these days annually. The Mooc includes the learning design developed to support the success of the course. It highlights the learning activities the students must complete to be successful. A short description is provided about the unique assessment opportunities, and it touches on the role of community partners in the outcomes of the module. As part of the video, we also included the reflection from our Vice Principal Teaching and Learning, Prof. Norman Duncan. He reflected on community engagement on the campus and the concept of embedding community engagement in the curriculum of all the undergrad students. He also addressed the importance of students' involvement in the community to make them more responsible citizens. My previous dean, Prof. Sunil Maharaj, the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and IT, also shared the successes of the module. And we had the opportunity to ask all students, alumni students, to reflect on their experiences, on the value that the module had on their careers and their lives. It was a very special section of the video for us, as it includes the alumni who have worked for several years in the industry after completing the studies. They shared their undergrad module experience and indicated how it impacted their lives and the decisions regarding the career choices and the views of the broader community. The enrolled students were also interviewed in the Mooc and had the opportunity to reflect on the module. They shared their learning experience through the projects and the skills masters during the projects. We also added a section with community partners who reflected on the module's value for the institutions and the experience with the students. The Mooc demonstrated the diversity of projects, illustrating from a range of community projects that the students do. These projects include renovation projects, installing irrigation systems for community vegetable gardens, and as well as computer training projects for community members and secondary school learners. For us, it was a really wonderful, valuable experience. It gave us the opportunity to showcase the level of curriculum and social responsibility through one of our modules. We could share our stories with an international audience under the umbrella of the University Social Responsibility Network. We could create a short yet powerful documentary about the module and participate in the opportunity to learn from others. It created also opportunity for us to benchmark our programs, and we received feedback to improve this program. As we always celebrate our student successes annually, the University of Pretoria also valued the opportunity to celebrate the success of this Mooc of the USRN. And we want to thank you for the opportunity to participate. I think in my new role, I will definitely also get involved with the USRN, and I'm looking forward to the new Mooc. Thank you very much.
Well, Martina, thank you very much. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to have you nearby. I would like to say, before we move to the next speaker, I would like to make two small comments. One is thank you to the University of Pretoria, because you guys did something amazing. While we were organizing the Mooc, somehow University of Pretoria fell out from our loop of communication, and the Mooc was moving forward. And eventually we're like, oh, what happened with Pretoria? And then we tell them, okay, we are doing this, are you joining? And they were like, yes, of course. And I have to say, what you brought into the Mooc was absolutely, I say it all the time, the strawberry on top of the cake. The cake was wonderful. Everything was very well presented. All the cases are super good. But what Pretoria brought to the Mooc was absolutely the final strawberry on that cake. So thank you very much. And one more thing that I would like to point at what Martina was sharing is the idea that the Mooc has helped us all to centralize and organize the information that we have in our own institutions. The fact that we have to show and showcase what we're doing made us think and rethink what we're doing. So thank you for pointing that out. It's a very, very important point, and this is perhaps the whole idea of this webinar today. So thank you very much, Martina, for your presentation and for pointing out those aspects. So next, like I said, I swapped the order, but there's a reason for this to happen, because our next speaker is from the University of Manchester, whom I would like to congratulate for they came first on the world ranking for university impact of the Times Higher Education. Many people may not like the idea of rankings, and there are reasons behind that. But the fact that the University of Manchester came at such a top level gives us very important lessons about why this happened. And this has to do a lot with the Mooc, which is the relation with what we do and how we show it, how we share it, how we raise visibility for the good practices. So with this being said, I would like to introduce our next speaker. This is Dr. Julian Scarm, who is the Director of Social Responsibility at the University of Manchester. Social responsibility is one of the university's 3 core goals and ensures that Manchester learning, research, engagement, and operational activities make a positive difference to society. He has first-class honors, master's and doctoral degrees in social sciences from the University of Manchester, and spent his early career as a teacher and assistant vice principal in a large urban sixth form college. Julian advises on the strategic education partnership and homeless partnership boards for Manchester City Council. He is a board member of the Loreto Sixth Form College and trustee of MACC, Manchester's support organism for the third sector. He's also a fellow of the Royal Society of the Arts, an occasional musician, everyday cyclist, and a father of 2 young children. So Julian, with great pleasure, I leave the floor to you. I very much look forward to hear what you're saying. Sorry, one more thing that I want to say is what Julian is, the reason why I wanted to leave this at the end is because University of Manchester is going to lead the next Mooc, which will be on the relation with SDGs. And related to this, one small thing more is that this is also related to the next webinar, which will be organized with Simeo Righthead, of which I will talk a little bit later. So Julian, thank you for letting me put you to the end, but as they say, the bigger claps come at the end. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody around the world. It's a really good opportunity to connect with people, and I hope everyone's keeping well. So I'm going to do 2 things. First, some lessons we had at Manchester from the Mooc, and then secondly, what we're going to do next as Fernando's teased. But before I do that, I've decided not to use any slides today because I've been using so many slides recently. I thought I'd just keep it varied for myself and not use any. But let me say where I work, first of all. I work at the University of Manchester. So we have been around nearly 200 years now. We were formed in 1824. Manchester is a city as famous for football, but perhaps more importantly, even it's famous as the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. So it's where the factory and where industrialization began in the world and was exported from England around the world. And the university was born around that same time in the 19th century. We have 25 Nobel Prize winners associated with the university. So lots of the iconic inventions, particularly of the 20th century, are associated with our university. So Rutherford worked with us and he split the atom. We invented the first computer at Manchester, the baby, which was followed up by Alan Turing's work with the second computer at Manchester. Christabel Pankhurst, who developed universal votes for women in the UK, was a law student of our university. And more recently, 10 years ago now, we got the Nobel Prize for Physics for isolating this wonderful material called graphene, which I'm sure you've heard of and is a site of enormous interest and potential. I think what I'd say though now, today, what's distinctive about our university is we have just 3 goals. Firstly, research. Secondly, teaching, which pretty much every university in the world does, research and teaching. And if you only did 2 things in a university, those are the 2 things obviously that make us unique. I think that we do those 2 things in combination. But we uniquely at Manchester, we were the first and still the only university in the UK to have a 3rd goal called social responsibility. So we've been a founding member of the University Social Responsibility Network because of our special place on this agenda in a UK context. And we have been delivering this agenda for about a decade now, around 10 years actually, exactly. And since then, we've always wondered, we know this work is important. That's a given. We know that research and teaching have been activities that universities have undertaken for a very, very long time. But this new agenda of social responsibility, which is still new and emerging in all places around the world, how do you know if you're making progress in these agendas? And what does progress actually look like? And I think as Fernando said, there are lots of ways in which you can measure this. We've done lots of evaluation of our activities over the years. And 3 years ago, the Times Higher stepped into this arena and they have one among many, and all of them are imperfect proxies of trying to measure impact. But nonetheless, although there are lots of flaws in any ranking, including this one, we've been the top performing institution in the UK for 3 years running since it was instigated. We've been in the top 10 every year for 3 years, and more recently we were actually the top out of 1,240 universities around the world. And we were delighted about that, recognizing, of course, though, that all of these rankings have their limitations. And certainly for us, we don't have good performance across all of the different 17 sustainable development goals that we submitted information for. We do better in some than others, but overall we came top. And one of the things we've been spending a lot of time at Manchester doing is thinking about the impact of our program. So when we had the opportunity for this Mooc, I'll just say first of all that there was a few lessons for me in taking part as a case study like Pretoria did in this Mooc. And the first one was to really be clear about our audience for this. I think why this Mooc was beneficial, I think, to people that participated, and why it was a real pleasure to take part, is we had a very clear target audience. It wasn't for people who are students necessarily, they were for professionals, people who are practitioners, people who are developing policies and overseeing programs in universities. That meant that we could pitch this right. So that's the first thing about the audience I felt was really important, and why I think if you haven't done it, you should do it. It's written for people like you, I think, are on the call today. The second thing is, I learned, having never done a Mooc before, is how you write your content for this. It's not like writing a paper. And if you write a paper or you write a strategy document and you just read it out, it's incredibly boring for people, of course, to watch. So you have to think about the style in which these things are delivered. Now, that might seem really obvious to those of you that teach every day for a living. I don't, but that was something I used to teach, and it was interesting to try and get that head back on of thinking about your audience and thinking about how you can engage with people. And that leads me to my third point. The lesson really was the technical elements of the video culture that we live in now. I think the expected standards have improved. So we have we all have a background with the USRN. I'll point there. I'm on a reverse screen, so I'm trying to point to it. That we're all used to seeing that. We're all used to seeing different bookshelves and fireplaces and children and cats and dogs, etc. For a Mooc, I think what our participation, our knowledge about this was that we had to do something really high quality, because to grab people's attention, to make it feel different to what we're used to seeing every day. So we went in, we did a green screen for this in the university. We had a very good technician that developed infographics and developed bits of text that would appear. And it just meant that it looked a bit different to what you're used to seeing, something that was more professionally produced. And I hadn't personally appreciated the value of that. That was something that was done after I did some of my own engagement on this Mooc, where I can really see the value of that now. So those are reflections. That's looking back, but why Fernando wanted me to speak, I know today, was to move forward as well. So I've been asked, volunteered, I don't know what the word is, but I've come forward to agree to do something really exciting and really profoundly important. And that's to take forward another Mooc now on behalf of the university sector, and doing this through the University Social Responsibility Network with other partners, and to take forward and lead a Mooc on universities' impacts against what I believe, and I think increasingly everybody believes, we've got the COP26 happening in the UK in a couple of weeks, the biggest challenge in the world around sustainable development, looking at the economic, social, environmental challenges that the United Nations have set out in those 17 goals. And those 17 goals, we talked about those in the Mooc, which is already done as one of the case studies. And I say something to this effect in there, that for us at Manchester, we believe these SDGs present the best opportunity that there's ever been for universities to reach out into the real world, because rather than talking about faculties and schools and institutes, all these esoteric words we like to use in universities, and in my country, we like to put in a bit of Latin as well, just to confuse people. Instead of doing that, which I call an inside-out approach, you start on the inside of a university and you expect the rest of the world to care. The SDGs are the best device there's ever been in my experience of 20 years working in a university, where you've got this enormous outside-in opportunity that the rest of the world has said, what do we need, want, expect, and hope for the kind of world that we would want to live in, and our children and our grandchildren would want to live in. We start with those 17 goals. That's the world's action plan. And we move those in. We take an outside-in approach. So what this Mooc will do is start with what the goals of the world are, expressed through the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's the starting point, not what we want to do or what we want to talk about. What does the world require of us? It starts with that profound question, and then it zooms in on 4 facets or functions that any university is and can take towards those 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So we will look at research, first of all, and how research is becoming more and more orientated towards these interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary challenges that we have expressed in the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the first thing. The second thing, we'll look at how can we engage our students. Martina has given an amazing example, which Pretoria have, and Hong Kong PU have amazing work on students. So how do we engage students in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals? That's the second thing we'll do. The third thing we'll look at, how can we take that public engagement function of a university to meet the Sustainable Development Goals? We do things like this. We do MOOCs, we go out into schools, we run museums and galleries, we go on television, we give evidence to politicians. How can we use that engagement function of universities to help address the SDGs? That's the third thing. And fourthly, we look at our own university operations. Most of us work in institutions that are some of the biggest employers, some of the biggest spenders, and some of the biggest placemakers in our cities and regions. We have our own carbon footprints. We have our own inequalities issues in the type of staff we employ at different levels in academic and non-academic roles. We have some of the biggest capital expenditure. So how can we use those operations, that fourth element, as a force for good? So it takes those 4 elements, and we'll give some really interesting case studies about how you can think through those 4 lenses to meet what the world demands of us, the biggest action plan that there's ever been for the planet. So it's a really profound and important challenge for us. And I think the Mooc method of doing this, I'm really optimistic that what this will do is give us a really good opportunity to share ideas as well as being a learning tool. It's also where we can engage in practice and learn from each other. So no university has the answers to this. That's the beauty of this platform, where you can get different institutions to talk about what they're doing in ways that you can return to and engage with at different times. So I'll just leave it there, because I'm conscious, Fernando, that we want to have any time for questions. And I see there's one in the Q&A, and I'd encourage, as I'm sure Fernando will in the moment, if you've got any questions, to stick them in there. So I'll pass back to you, Fernando. I hope that's okay.
All right, Julian, thank you very much. It's like I said, it's super inspiring to see what all of the universities in the USR network are doing. And it's super inspiring to see what you guys in Manchester did. Like I said, it's not just the fact that you made it to the top of the rankings, it's how you made it. And one thing that I would like to mention about this is when the idea of this first MOOC happened, one of the goals was, how do we raise visibility of what we do? Many times it happens that universities do the work, like they have good stuff going on, but people don't know how this happens, or why this happens, or where it happens. So in this Manchester, again, the fact that you made it to the top kind of checks all the points. And I will say something, a little bit of an anecdote. In 2018, there was a QS Apple conference in Fukuoka, here in Kyushu in Japan. And Miranda from the USR Network Secretariat and myself did a presentation to introduce the MOOC that we were going to do. And the takeout message was, universities need to do the work, research and education. They need to show the work. People need to know how that work is done. And one more thing, which is the next step, is universities need to work the show. Many times it happens that we are so concerned about doing what we do and doing it well that we forget to share it with society. And then the fact that the rankings, for example, kind of push all the institutions to think about how you are going to show your work. So I'd like to kind of bring back that moment from that presentation with Miranda. Universities do the work, show the work, work the show. like it's a tongue twister, but it's an interesting way to see and to say that Manchester has really checked all three. So thank you very much, Julian, for that. We are all very much looking forward to the next Mooc, which is, like you said, about universities' engagement and achievements with the SDGs, which is going to be connected to our next webinar. Webinar number 2 of this series will be together with CIME or RIHED, which is the Southeast Asian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Southeast Asian Ministry of Education organization, and RIHED is the Center for Higher Education. And they will be having their views about USR, but specifically focusing on SDGs. So this is why I wanted to connect your presentation to what comes for the next event. So with this being said, thank you very much, Julian, again. I would like to do a couple of things. First, from the questions, we only have one question, which comes from Paola in Kyoto University. Thank you, Paola, for being there and for your question. So Paola is asking, did you find any barriers to approach toward the project leaders, professors, and convince them that visibility is important? I would imagine this question is for all presenters. So I will ask all of you if you have any comments on this or any suggestions that you want to say or any way.
I'll come in, Fernando, on that. I think it's an easy answer in a UK context, because making your research visible is something that there's a reward for in the UK. We have this thing called the Research Excellence Framework in the UK, and part of that you have to demonstrate the impact of your work. So if it's drawing on research, for example, there's an inbuilt incentive in the British system for that. If it's a non-research area, like your teaching or your, I don't know, our university museum or something, I still think that most people, if you work in our sector, you don't just work for your own institution, you work for the greater good, I think. And part of that is about sharing what we do. I don't think lots of areas that we've developed in the Mooc are competitive between us. It's about our shared endeavor. So I think at Manchester, we have a really good culture where we encourage staff to engage with the public. We place a lot of value on that. We reward it. We have awards and recognition. So people that are involved in these things, we would always give them, they would definitely get recognized within the university for that work through our communications channels. So sometimes it's a non-financial or non-career benefit, but it's about making people feel valued for what they do. And we really value our staff for being public intellectuals, for engaging with the public and for getting the message out there, not just about ourselves, but about the power of universities to help improve the world.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know from the other speakers, Martin, I would love to hear what you
have
to say.
Yes, I was the one that had to do the video in a very, very short time. So I had to convince somebody to pay for it. And that was really easy, I must say, because we saw the broader marketing value of this and to showcase our module as such. So it is really easy. I think it was not really difficult to convince any of the leaders and the professors to be part of the Mooc. That's
okay. Nikki, would you like to say something? I think you and I have been working with the case of Kyoto University. Would you like to share your comments?
Yeah, I would like to thank Martina, Julian, and Rob for their great presentation. I really enjoyed listening to them. And I was thinking that it was such a nice opportunity for both of us to be able to reflect on what we did during the project with all the other parties or people involved and those who are cooperating and collaborating with us throughout the project. So honestly, I don't have any ideas how many times Kyoto University is going to repeat the same course, but I do believe that each time the educational design and quality of the course is going to improve. I mean, I'm pretty much sure of that because it's in the capable hands of Kyoto University team. And I do trust in them and what they're capable of. And I think that with that, the course is going to well, gain more recognition within the community and beyond. And also, well, I do believe that there are still things that can be done with the promotion and with the marketing for the course. And of course, I do remember that in one of the internal meetings with the team, there were some suggestions on adding more interaction elements to the course, such as like conducting live sessions with a team of instructors and contributors involved. So that would give more motivation to the learners and attract what I mean, maintaining well, the current number of learners in the course, that would attract more learners. And they gradually discovered the significance of USR and USRN. That's all from me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nikki. We're actually out of time. I'm going to take the freedom to take 5 more minutes of your time. If you allow me, I would very much like to hear what Rob has to say, and then we will start wrapping up. So Rob, if you have any comments.
Just one of the things that it seemed to me so important about our conversation today was the several examples the colleagues have given of how the planning and developing of their contributions to the Mooc had beneficial internal consequences. That yes, there's expense and a lot of effort involved, but the dynamic of additional reflection, of benchmarking, it seems to me a key. I leave the session today with a stronger sense of that dimension of contributing to the Mooc, and as Julian has provided such an inspiring vision of the next Mooc, I think there'll be some wonderful opportunities for that same type of internal positive benefit for contributing to our next joint online course.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to go a little bit off the topic, and I would like to ask the USR Network Secretariat if you can put the camera on, and I'm going to take a picture of us together. This was a work that we've been doing for a long while, and it's good to have you all together, and like it's good to have some kind of wrapping up. So I just took some pictures for myself. Miranda, you may want to take another one on your side, but this is like just one picture for us to say like, well done. So that's one little thing. And next, as we're coming to the end of this webinar, I would like to ask Miranda to share one slide which talks about what is coming next.
We just say thanks to you, Fernando, before we pass to Miranda, just to say a big thank you to you. You've done a fantastic job, Fernando, on this.
It's been such a wonderful experience. Seriously, doing this together with everybody, like both the USR network team, the USR network secretariat, and Hong Kong PolyU as a whole, and then all of the members of the universities. Like seriously, it's been such a wonderful experience. So the thanks go from this side. But we're not done yet. So before, no, Miranda, can you please show what's coming next? I am super, super excited to present and to invite everybody here and beyond to the next webinar, which will be, will bring together CMEO Right, which is, like I said before, the Southeast Asia Ministry of Education organization, and Right is the Center for Higher Education, and they will share with us the ideas of what USR means in their main program, which is the AIMS program. AIMS stands for ASEAN International Mobility for a Student program, and it's one of the biggest programs in Southeast Asia for mobility of students. I am super, super excited to have these two big organizations that I love, the USR Network and CMEO Right, coming together for this coming webinar, which will be on the 10th of November. And that's the time, and the details will be presented in the USR network coming soon. Like, we're finalizing the details, but we do look forward to having you all there for the second webinar of this series. So with this being said, I'd like to thank very especially the USR Network Secretariat for all the work in putting all these people together. It's not easy. Like, the Mooc was one example, and Miranda, we see your face, but it's all the USR Network Secretariat, and especially the Hong Kong PolyU as a whole for leading this initiative. It's very, very inspiring, and you are really contributing to the movement of USR. Very special thanks again for all the speakers. Thank you for the universities who participated in the Mooc. Thank you for all the universities in the network. And very special thanks go to all the audience who joined us today. It's super, super inspiring to see so many people, and it's interesting to see so many people who are not members of the network. This is one thing that I am super, super happy to remark on, the fact that it's not just an internal thing. When we started doing the Mooc, we were thinking, is this going to be just us? And at some point we decided to make it open, and it's paying off. Like Nikki said, in the participation of the countries, it's great to see so many people from countries where the USR network does not yet exist, but is something that is going to probably change in the near future, hopefully. So with this being said, this is all from me. I don't know if there's any other comment or anything else to be said. If not, I guess I'll see you in the audience of the next webinar on November.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.